Jeremy Lynch is the least likable person I've ever come across on YouTube over the last decade of doing it, and there is no close second. You see you representing hashtag. You see, I think, Billy, Lawrence, and Cal from
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Crucially, not me. There's a reason you don't see me. The reason I would not be in that shot is it was a lie. There was times where I was really annoyed with Billy. I'm not gonna lie. There was times where I was like, I thought of him in the same way I thought Jeremy. And then what I learned, I had to educate myself a little bit. Billy's not a bad guy. Billy just has a different goals to me. Jeremy has a certain response, which is usually about how much money is in his bank.
What I heard was, guys, laugh at me all you want. I'm a multi-millionaire.
All right, mate, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. It's a long-awaited one since we made the last one talking about the Wembley Cup. Seb is back.
Yes, hello, mate.
And we're talking about, specifically today, our relationship with the F2 freestylers. And
or
why,
lack of.
Yeah, lack of these days, and why it got like that, because it wasn't always the case. I want to say a few things before we make this video. Something that I clearly thought a lot about, because really I could have made this video almost 2 years ago. It was when we are bringing up old stuff here. This is not current in my life. There's no active communication between myself and the F2. But we'll talk about why that is. And I think one thing before I get into it is, I want to say this is not a hat shit job. This is not a cancel video. This is not a everyone go and unfollow this guy. I don't care. I honestly do not care. And I mean this, whether you believe it or not, good luck to them both.
Yep.
Hope they make lots more money. Hope they do everything they want to do with their lives, okay? I'm just going to tell you my version of events. Because as I mentioned in the last video, I haven't ever spoken out about this. I talked about why I didn't do it at the time. You know what it's like. Life gets in the way. Things go on. Why we're doing it now? The honest answer is I want to get it done and dusty because it's something that people still ask me about.
There's a lot of people still talk about it as well. Like, there's a lot of other people made content about this situation, and we've only really sort of touched the surface in that last video. And I mean, we obviously talked about this an awful lot, getting to this point when it was all happening back then. Be honest, we've completely moved on from it, right? It's long in the rearview mirror, but at the same point, you've never really had the chance to properly give the people maybe what they, from your perspective specifically. A lot of people have spoken about the Spencer F2 beef, but not you ever. Yeah,
and also I didn't like the idea that there was some kind of incriminating thing. The fact that I hadn't said anything really meant that we were in the wrong in some way, which I think we're going to clear up. But also, the main reason we're doing it is we are, for the first time ever, really starting to make this kind of content.
Yeah, discussions.
And it felt like a good one for us to start with. We're going to get it done, we're going to end it. But as I mentioned, I don't care if there's a reply to this. I don't think I'll make another video about my interaction with the F2. There is some other things we've discovered that are very interesting that I will allude to in this video. We received an email.
Very interesting email.
Off the back of the last Wembley Cup video, which is a very Wembley Cup specific email. And I think the relationship with myself and the F2 deteriorating is actually bigger than the Wembley Cup.
Yeah.
But this email is, like, I don't know about you, but when I saw it, I was like...
Yeah, that's exactly the face I got. So I got it quite late at night, and I think I immediately sent you a screenshot, and I was like, Spen, this is big.
It basically changes everything, but also nothing.
Yeah, it actually changed. I actually think it changes nothing at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's just very interesting. It changes nothing towards the whole feeling in both camps. But if anything, it actually reinforces something, to be honest.
Well, yeah, there's a personality clash there for sure. There's nothing to do with the Wembley Cup. It's something that we're going to get onto.
It was
today.
enlightening, though.
This thing is actually about a specific incident that happened in the Wembley Cup, which I think, not even just for the F2 and Spencer FC, actually for football, we need to actually talk about it.
To be honest, we spoke about whether it was right to discuss this, but I think beyond anything like that, that's a good point you make, which is it's the right thing to do.
And I think that is what is a line that is underneath all our decisions around the Wembley Cup. Whenever we thought what's good for hashtag, what's good for F2, we just thought what's the right thing to do for a football tournament, for all these things. So we might talk about this email, but we're going to cover other stuff first. So as I mentioned, I don't care about cancelling people. I think there's already been loads of videos made. I saw a good video on Jack Mate's podcast recently with Stephen Tries. He talks about what happened particularly with him and the F2, some of the nonsense that happened in the bar afterwards. Yeah. There's a load of videos out there you can watch that are going to do a much better job of being 100% like brutally honest about people's interactions with Jeremy Lynch specifically, because I'm really not in that game. No. I'm not interested in like creating drama, and I just want to speak in facts. That being said, I do think it's important to say that it's very hard to say this and not make it sound like I'm trying to create drama, but I want people to know where I stand on it. Jeremy Lynch is the least likable person I've ever come across on YouTube over the last decade of doing it, and there is no close second. It is Jeremy Lynch, and then like I don't know who would be number 2, but there's a lot of space between them.
Yeah.
Okay. I say Jeremy specifically because Billy is not like that, in my opinion. I have had some clashes with Billy, but they've been much more professional clashes rather than personal clashes. We'll go on to talk about them. But equally, there's some good things about both people that we should also talk about. Because if I've learned anything, people are nuanced. Someone might do something and you think, that guy's the worst guy ever, but he has all his own reasons for doing those things. And in there, I saw, funnily enough, it was on a David Beckham fragrance advert that I saw a really good line recently, which is, you get these weird like advertising slogans on perfume adverts or aftershave. I really liked it. In David Beckham's thing, he says something like, it took me a long time to realise that there's no right or wrong. There's just what's right for you.
Interesting.
And I thought that applies to this.
I mean, because I agree, like, this is the one thing that's frustrating, and this is what makes the world go round, a difference of opinion. Now, what we believe to be the case may be very different to what Jeremy believes is fair and reasonable. The difference is, in this case exactly, is it's not us just saying it. There's a lot of people already come out and revealed stories, all of which we've seen firsthand. There are a lot of other ones that I've seen personally, you've seen personally, I've heard from people that are, some of them even worse than some of the ones that have become public. I don't think it's our place to discuss them, but at the same point, it is important what you say is that, first thing and foremost, I agree with what you said about Jeremy, it not being a very enjoyable experience to work with whatsoever. But at the same point, he's clearly a very talented guy.
Yep.
Right now, particularly, he's absolutely killing it on TikTok. He's a very creative guy. What he and Billy have created with the F2 brand and their clothing, Rascal, it's sensational. It's very, very impressive. But that doesn't mean that it's nice to work with Jeremy, for example, or as a package sometimes.
There's lots of people that are very successful out there that you probably wouldn't want to hang out with, And I think that TikTok suits Jeremy down to the ground because he's creative. Has the ability to make good videos, and also you don't have to put too much personality into them. They're 15 seconds long. That's the case. Like I'm not. Like the thing is, right? I do want to say one thing though that I think is really important here. And then one of the reasons I'm really stressing this, I don't want to create this whole like everyone go and tweet him and do all this. He's actually not on Twitter anymore, and I think that's part of the reason because other videos people have made.
I think he's had enough of that the last few years, probably anyway, off the back of some of the other content that's come out.
That's what I'm saying. People have done this. This is old news, really.
Yeah, agreed.
But what I really want to stress to people at home here, because I know a lot of the people, I think we've had some really good reaction to our Wembley Cup video. People really enjoyed it, and like we want to make more videos like this, talking about our business, #football, whatever. This is specifically about person, and it's a very dangerous territory. And I am the much smaller YouTuber in this case. These guys are massive. There's no doubt about that. And I've always been wary if I'm talking about someone that's got more subscribers or even less subscribers. You don't want to be seen to be a bully in any way. If you're the bigger one, you can look that way. I think with the F2, it's actually gone the opposite way, whereas some people have kept quiet because they've been scared of what they will do. But I do want to say this. Mental health is a real thing, right? I have no idea what's going on inside Jeremy's head. I genuinely wish him the best. I have nothing against the guy. I don't want to hang out with him or be friends with him or work with him again, but I don't have any ill feeling towards him. And some of the things he's done in my presence make me think he might not be the most stable person. Okay, I could be way out of line here. I could be wrong, but I'm not prepared to take that risk. So do not involve me in any tweets, any bit. I don't want anything to do with it. Okay, I'm not trying to ruin the guy's life. I think he's got his own issues, if I'm being honest. And I could be way out of line, but I'm not trying to create that sort of thing. I'm not trying to get involved in that sort of thing. I'm just telling you guys like it is. Because as much as I believe everything I'm saying now, I also think people need to be held accountable. And I also think if people are monetizing their personality, if you like, or their brand with books and with YouTube videos and with all these things, you've got a right to an extent to know what sort of person they are. And I also think no one's perfect. I say this about footballers all the time.
Of course not.
Footballers, we put on a pedestal because they're really good at kicking a ball, and then we expect them to behave the best in their home life, in their relationships with their fans, all these other things. Like, of course we want them to do that, but that's not what they were ever good at. The politicians are the one going out there and going, vote for me, I'm a good egg. And that's when they're scandalous, they should be exposed. But when Wayne Rooney gets up to no good with a granny, as much as it is ridiculous and weird, it's like, when did he say he was Mother Teresa?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to be fair, Jeremy Lynch has never come out and said he's a hero. He has come out and said he's the best footballer in the Arsenal Invincibles era. That should be held accountable.
Natural talent, was it? What was
most naturally talented on the ball or something? I don't know. Madness, absolute madness. But we've talked about this email. Let's talk about where it started with the F2.
Yep.
And the reason you're in this, well, I won't do a lot of stuff with you talking like this, but specifically you've been involved in most steps of the way with the F2 and me. Got to be careful on what we talk about here. We've got respect. There's other people involved.
There's other parties involved. Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into the salacious detail that I'm sure some of you would like. But ultimately for me, there's a clear line in the sand where my relationship with the F2 started to deteriorate. And you can see the line in the sand because the relationship before this point was so good that I actively tried to get them involved in a business deal we were putting together. It was, if successful, going to be a very, very big deal involving quite a bit of money and a football project we were working on. I actively was talking to a third party who's also very well known, and I tried to get the F2 involved in it. And through the things that followed, the negotiations, contracts, etc., I came to see they were quite ruthless businessmen. It's not a surprise to me. A lot of people in this industry are, and they've had a lot of success as a result of being like that. But for me personally, I'm not that way inclined. You know, you're the business part of this enterprise in my opinion, and I'm the sort of creative side. That's how we work. We obviously have both. You've got a creative side, I've got a business side, but
sure,
we know the line.
Yeah.
I don't like dealing with people like that. So I decided I didn't want to work with the F2 as a result of some of the things they tried. And again, not to go into too much detail here, feel free to shut me up if you think I'm going to get us in trouble.
Right so far, I think.
But like, for an example, within a very small amount of time in negotiations, this idea that was completely our idea and our thing, when the negotiations weren't going the way they liked, it took them minutes to say, oh, if you don't do it like this, we'll do it ourselves. We'll do this without you, etc., etc. And it was just like, hang on, we're supposed to be mates. If we don't want to do the business deal, that's cool, but don't threaten me. I don't like that. So that was a problem for me. So the relationship started to sour. Now, I want us to be held accountable. I want, if we have done anything wrong, and I have held my hands up with things like the Smith and the Palmer stuff, and I've said that was 50-50. I think they did stuff wrong. I think we did stuff wrong, and we learned from it.
Yeah,
okay.
Fair.
So I think we've got to do the same here. Now, the first thing I did, I think, which attributed to souring our relationship, something I did, was after our relationship had started to break down, or we knew we weren't going to get into business together, I was presenting an esports event for FIFA 2.5 years ago in Spain. A lad you now know probably called Tex won it, 16-year-old unsigned. They, F2, did a tweet saying, we want to sign Tex as soon as the event was won. And I did some laughing emojis back, loads of laughing emojis. Now, they probably thought that was quite disrespectful, and there was a few tweets that followed as well, all of which got deleted subsequently. But I was a bit disrespectful to them, I'll be honest, in my tweets. And there was a reason for that. I'm not excusing it, I'm just painting the picture. The first reason was, I was actually at this event in Barcelona, they weren't, and I saw the predatory instincts of actually other people, not the F2, towards Tex. I saw one guy from a team literally physically grab him. So desperate were they to get him. I think one team tried to meet him in the toilet to try and get him to sign a contract to deal with him. Like, he's a 16-year-old kid. I didn't agree with it. Some people have thought that I was bitter or something. I'll be honest, from a hashtag perspective, we're very risk averse. So I was not interested in signing Tex at that point.
We spoke about that quite early on, didn't we?
The kid looked amazing, but I was like, this is FIFA. He could be rubbish in the next game. Did I get that one? It's like De Bruyne leaving Chelsea. You know? Did I get that one wrong? Yeah, but Chelsea also got some money out of De Bruyne going to Wolfsburg. So I had said, look, let's see what he does in a year from now. Let's let someone else sign him. In fairness to the F2, they signed him. He was great. He is still great. So they gave him a big contract, and it was worth it. So I wasn't interested in signing him, but I didn't like the predatory instincts at that point. And the other reason I was like that is because of this context I had with the F2, whereby I'd seen them, in my opinion, be a little bit unethical in our negotiations as a result of us being very open in those negotiations, probably too open on my part. I shared a lot of what goes on with hashtag and our ideas. I saw them launch F2FC off the back of the Wembley Cup before that, which part of our negotiation was we were going to use that moment, that interview to launch a new project, and they launched their football team with it. They created something called the F2 Academy after we told them all about our Academy series. They now were getting into esports, and I was just like, whilst all these things are free for anyone to get into, I didn't invent these things. It was like, guys, like, were you going to do this stuff without me opening the door to you? Maybe they were, but it was like, that's why I was in that frame mind. So I was like, of course the F2 wanted to get into it. And then we had some tweets back and forth and a few DMs, and it wasn't great. It was obvious the relationship wasn't in a great nick. And then the next Wembley Cup comes around. There was a few instances here. You know, there was obviously the thing at the game. There was
some stuff. They replied to those tweets that I think equally both got deleted, didn't they? I think you deleted yours.
Oh no, they did say something about Social Blade or something.
I think I think Jeremy said something about like YouTube viewing figures and comparing things like that, which is I mean, it's sort of...
to be fair, I don't know who actually did those tweets.
No, true.
I don't know if that was Jeremy or Billy. But I do know that whenever they say something to me critical, like if they want to... Basically, I'm very good at insult matches. I used to get picked on a little bit at school. I did stand-up comedy. I'm quite good at having the last word in that. And sometimes I bite off more than I can chew, and I take on people. And whenever I had one of them, whether it was through Twitter or whatever, and in person, it happened on one of the Wembley Cup shoots in the draft. If I ever criticised them, and I'd only criticise them things that I think were criticised-worthy, the only thing I'd get back was about numbers. It was always about they've got more subscribers than me, or they've got a Wash Your Social Blade saying, it's like, I couldn't care less. It's like, I don't need any more subscribers. Am I pushing to hit 2? I've been on nearly 2 million subscribers about 4 years. Like, it's more than enough for me. I never had any ambitions for numbers. I think Jeremy particularly sees that as like cash in the bank, or sees that cash in general, he clearly values a lot more than I do. And I think he sees that as a something to take the mick out of people if they haven't got what he's got, which is not my way of doing things. But yeah, there'd been some tweets I thought were out of line from them, but they were responding to a tweet that was probably out of line from me.
In that occasion, you started that particular one.
I did start that one.
But they said this is not just... We're not trying to paint a picture, an unrealistic picture that like anybody is or should be perfect. And it's trying to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Rule a line under this whole situation and holding hands up to anything that maybe we should hold hands up to as well, which I'm sure there are some things like that.
To be honest, this isn't even an F2 thing. This thing about numbers, it's a YouTube thing. It's there's so many youngsters.
It's a culture thing, Spen. It's a culture thing. And it's a big problem. And there is a huge problem how... I even get it myself on my golf channel sometimes. Like I hardly ever upload compared to some people. Make sure you subscribe
to Seb on Golf if you haven't already.
Well, if you like your golf, why not?
We actually haven't shouted him enough out on the last few videos. It was my bad. Link in the description. He's done a video of the Sidemen recently.
Did indeed.
A little bit of a segue here, but Seb on golf, Zerka, Minter.
I mean, the point I make is that, so I'm uploading a little bit more now. I'm uploading maybe a video a week at the moment on there. I've got over 100k subscribers, which is pretty good in golf. It's one of the bigger ones. But when you do upload a video, and you know this more than anyone, and maybe you're more immune to it than some, you when you're checking the numbers, like I literally, it's not how I make most of my living from my golf thing, right? But you do sort of get like an emotional attachment, like how many likes has this got? How many views has this got? Like, and it's like validation. And I think that as much as I try to like to feel like I'm also not really bothered by them things, which really I'm not, because like why would I be? But ultimately, a lot of people really, really are. And I think that's a massive issue with social media. I don't want to get off topic here, but I think there's a lot of people that are living and dying by their numbers, even if they're not professional YouTubers, if they're just people with social media accounts. And I think it's very unhealthy. Instagram talked about removing the like button.
Yeah,
I think they have in some places.
It starts with people at a young age now that are growing up in this era that we didn't grow up in. And people are putting way too much stuff on it. Like, don't get me wrong, if you have more subscribers or more TikTok followers or more ever, you're probably going to get better brand deals and you're probably going to make more money and you're going to monetize that and you're going to be better off financially. We were just having a chat earlier about some big YouTubers, right? And I was saying to you, and I made a case for why I would not swap places with them. Because for me personally, I'm at a really good level where for what I want to achieve, running a football club, being in the football world, getting football opportunities, I've got like a really decent following, and thank you to everyone that's followed me over the years. If I was to get to 5 million subscribers or 10 million subscribers, I don't know how much more it would get me. It would give me some more money, for sure, but it would tie me more to that side of things. It would probably not help me anymore in the real world of football, which is something I do care a lot about. And it would also come along with loads of baggage, loads of like getting stopped in the street. Like I'm at a nice level. If I go to a football game, yes, there's a chance some people know who I am, but most of my life I'm anonymous and I like that. And if you get to 10 million subscribers, that ain't the case. I do think it's going to affect your mental health. And what's worse though is if you start to really see your own value in that. So yeah, I mean, that's always come up with them.
Let's go back to where you were, because I cut you off there. So we just talked about those tweets.
We got to Wembley Cup. So we're now organising the most recent Wembley Cup, and we're still in a good enough, relationship with them where we can ask them to be involved, and they'll be involved. It's not completely broken down by this point. Then we had the group stage shoot. And
it's important to probably note at this point as well that, and it's a general point we did touch on in the last video, where the Wembley Cup got to such a point now where there were some of the people involved that seeing it more as a contractual obligation than had the initial excitement to be involved in this amazing series, which I still think is amazing and has always been amazing. And you started to find that, people's what they wanted to do for the fee they were able to get from EE got harder and harder to enforce them to do it. And you were finding that F2 were becoming very difficult to get them to fulfill some of their obligations. They didn't both come to the game previously the year before, and it was becoming difficult. And that was it was like they were involved. It wasn't enough to be involved, but it wasn't like in the same as it was in the previous years.
They weren't buzzing to be there, were they? They weren't buzzing to be there. It was very much, what can we get out of them for? How much time have we got? And they're going to go.
Yeah.
And so there's two things that are like, I don't know if we'll actually talk about in this video, but that are key. There's this WhatsApp group thing which happened in the final, and there's the underlying thing in the WhatsApp.
Well, the WhatsApp group thing is big because it got given so much attention, but it's such a moot point. Like literally, we have that WhatsApp chat, and as we said in the last video, literally, the world is welcome to have that thing, because literally nothing of that makes...
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make that video, because...
It's a private WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, not because it's got anything bad for us. Just
it really hasn't.
It's just like, why do people need to see a WhatsApp chat? But I will do it, if it comes to it. Like, the point is, I'm bringing it up, though, is that as people will see if we do show it, the underlying thing in that video that people had issues, in that WhatsApp group, people had issues was when we tried to keep to the rules. We set rules for a tournament.
Yeah.
Not out of our interests, out of the tournament's interests. And every other team, at some extent, probably apart from XO, tried to break them at some point. And we had to keep people in line.
That's really important. We touch on that, but we touched on it in the last thing. This is the problem with those things, is that the perception of some of the parties when we're trying to keep to rules was they had the perception that we were trying to circumnavigate the rules. But you can't circumnavigate a rule by sticking to it. It's there for a reason. People ultimately, I think, some of the people involved ultimately couldn't get past the fact that they saw us as trying to have our cake and eat it constantly. And the thought that the Wembley Cup was meant to be a stacked deck in our favour couldn't be further from the truth. We've talked about previously in the last video. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out. We talked specifically about the Wembley Cup and our views on it and why it may or may not return. But ultimately, that's what I think happened, is when we were trying to just stick to the rules, people saw it as us trying to control too many things. But ultimately, the rules were there for the good of the series. And that's the unique position that we were in, is you're the founder of the Wembley Cup, Spencer FC, who's on your channel, and also the founder of #United. #United are a team playing in the tournament. So you're the tournament host, you're the chairman or the captain of the team in the tournament, and I'm also in the team in the tournament and helping to exec produce the whole show and representing you. So if you are fair, there are some conflicts of interest there.
100%.
However, what we can say is hands on heart is that we were always trying to do for the best of everybody, and the best of the show. And ultimately people just couldn't get past trying to drive their own agenda in that WhatsApp chat.
I mean, the conflict of interest are 100% apparent. I know for a fact, because of how rigorous I stick to the rules, that I can do both.
I know,
I have no desire to do
other
both.
people's accepting of that,
I don't want to do both anymore. I was prepared to do that. We were a victim of our own success. We created a team that people were scared to play. And so they were trying to improve their teams. So we said, look, let's create rules. This is when you can make
number
a
squad. Yeah, exactly.
If you try and add players to it off this point, that went for both of us. We didn't have some very key players, and we did have people like me, Wes Tanser, all these guys that weren't playing in the first team by this point, involved in the squad. Anyway, so I'll bring it up. So there's a WhatsApp group thing, and then before that, there's this thing that happens at the group stage when their game was stopped early.
Yes.
Okay, and that did 100% happen.
Yep.
We've never denied that.
Nope.
The referee stopped the game early.
Worth saying as well, properly independent FA qualified referees
refs,
that actually we had absolutely no hand in selecting, even though that shouldn't even be something you need to say. The agency involved, Poke, went to the FA, got some local refs, they were there. We met them for the first time on the day.
Yeah, but here's what's really crucial. And it doesn't really matter how much we try and argue to the opposite. If we were cheats, we would want the F2 to win all of their group stage games.
Of course.
Because the better you do in the group stage, the harder draft you get, and do you know what I mean? You get the worst team got better players in as a result. The fact they did badly in the group stage, i.e. lost to XO and lost to us as well, meant they got a better pick. So we hurt ourselves by doing well. The fact that I would have rather lost 3-0 to Rebel in the group stage and beaten them at Wembley.
Yeah, of course.
But it got harder for us at Wembley because the other team got better picks. So if we were cheating, if we were conspiring to hurt the F2, we would have done whatever we could to make sure they won the game. Okay?
Yep.
Second of all, and then we never would have done that, by the way. We would never do that. But I'm just saying, if you're going to throw... call me a cheat, at least call me a clever cheat.
Well, we built the rules in conjunction with EE for the tournament to give parity, to make it as fair and entertaining as possible. Those same rules that prohibited us from using our best players that were now smashing it in on league.
Well, what was also worth saying, though, is these were rules that every single team agreed to.
If there
was a feedback session. How do we feel about these rules?
Yep.
We had to work out the size of the squad.
Yep.
Everyone would have loved to have taken 30 mates to Wembley. The reality is we had a half an hour game. So we had to find out what's the sweet spot of numbers that we can take. Everyone had to agree to that. Anyway, that was fine. Going into the group stage, that was fine. Everyone agreed.
Yep. It was only then when some people's teams realised they couldn't get their teammates to turn up to certain things or stay.
I will say certain things. Like F2, Red Bull broke the rules more than the F2 did. F2 actually did understand the rules. They brought people to the group stage that they knew couldn't play at Wembley. And as a result of that, they had a smaller squad at Wembley. And they never complained about that.
No,
they never complained about that. What happened at the Wembley Cup group stage specifically is their game gets finished early. Now, here's where I'm going to pull the curtain away a little bit. Because what you see if you watch that video is you see game get called early, a little bit of a kick-off from the F2 going like, what's happened here then? And then you see the heads of the families, crucially, not me. There's a reason you don't see me. You see you representing hashtag. You see, I think, Billy, Lawrence, and maybe Cal from Red Bull.
I think so.
And it's everyone there, and we all going, listen, there's been an issue. Their game was stopped early. The F2 have been screwed over, but the F2 are such good lads that we're going to not even replay the game, and we're going to crack on. And everyone's going, thanks F2, thanks F2. I refuse to be in that shot. The reason I would not be in that shot is it was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. There was hours that passed. The F2 stopped production. They threatened the entire Wembley Cup from even happening. They said they were going to take everyone off because we're all cheats and we're all cheating against them, etc. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what they said. They burst into the production room and said, and I quote, and I say quote because there's actually recording of it, we are one of the biggest brands in football. This is very embarrassing for us. And it was embarrassing for them. They lost the XO. I wish they lost in the amount of time it would have taken, which they may well have done. We're talking a couple of minutes they missed out on. Injury time, basically, is what they missed out on, right? The XO 1-0 up based on effort and well done to them. Now, we're obviously trying to rectify the situation. First thing we had to do, are they right?
Firstly, you've got to understand how crucial what was happening there was. How we've already spoken about how a limited amount of time you get with some of the creators in Wembley Cup. How a structure is divided. There's a shoot day. There's X amount of time. There's promotion. There's tickets. There's all these things. It's all balancing on a fine line the whole time. And there's dozens of people, myself including, working round the clock to make sure everything goes to plan. We've now lost hours of time. That means all the production team, all of the other staff there, all the creators, they've all got other things they've got to go to. They might have to leave. If we lose them that day, there may not have been a time where we could have got every creator from every team back together again. It may have meant the whole thing was gone, right? And it was all being put at jeopardy over a minute and a half or 2 minutes, whatever.
It is important that we stress this, okay? First thing we did was find out if they were right, and they were right. The game was right.
It was verified.
We checked the footage.
No doubt, no debating that.
I came in, I got involved in the conversations that were going on for a long time, and I said, look, let me just make one thing clear. I'm with the F2 on this. I said that in front of everyone. I said, I would be fuming if this happened to hashtag. I would want answers. I wanted to find out what happened. We didn't have answers because we genuinely didn't know why it happened. By the way, this email we received recently is about this issue specifically. And it's a video in itself.
Yeah, I think it might have to be.
It's new information that has come up to us literally a week
years
ago.
Later.
Years after the event. Because of the last video we made, someone saw it and gave us some intel we didn't know about. So if you want to know more about this instance, I will tell you. But we need to concentrate on what happened on the day. So we didn't know why. They seem to think we did. Okay, the F2 were implying that we had said, blow the whistle, get the game done.
Well, so first of all, I'm not going to give them any excuses here because the way they handled that situation, there's footage of it, people have gone into it before, the way they handled it was really, really poor. But the whole set was laughing at them. Because, what do you expect? You've got XO, who are like comedians, guys who are not really footballers. We're there on the side as well. We're watching. F2 are obviously the best footballers in the world. And they've got these Love Island guys there and everyone's having a good time and they want to win and think they're better than everybody. And then they play the team that are on paper, you could argue, the worst team. And everyone was going nuts. It was really, really funny. No one meant it maliciously. No, it's like a bit of fun.
It would have been the same if XO scored against us. Of
course it would have. Of course it would have. It's like if I go and filmed a golf video, non-golf, hashtag putting penalties thing. I went out first. Everyone laughed at me.
Because I went one round further than you. I'm going like...
I look like a total idiot in front of everybody. I'm meant to be this good golfer. I got humiliated. It's hilarious. I played it up in my video. I celebrate that fact, right? Because ultimately, I'm not trying to convince people that I'm Tiger Woods. I'm just trying to be a nice guy enjoying my golf career. Anyway, so what I will say is with the egos we know that they've got, specifically Jeremy's got, you can only imagine how much it was grinding his gears, you know, having all these people going, laughing, hilarious. Everyone was going ham on it, to be fair. But that doesn't excuse the way you handle it. But it does sort of help paint a picture, maybe.
It does. What it basically is, though, all this incident did is highlight something. So we knew from the first Wembley Cup, dealing with the F2, you had to tread on eggshells. We knew we couldn't upset them. We knew what they were like. So the last thing you want as an organised Wembley Cup is any kind of drama with the F2.
Yeah, honestly, you just know it's bad.
What happened in that game was so bad for us.
Yeah, it was awful.
Like, no one wanted it to happen. Trust me, that ref blowing the whistle did not help us in any way. No one wanted them to do it. And they just wouldn't believe that. They honestly
literally hours of negotiations.
Hours. The whole thing's been stopped. All the teams don't know what's going on. And part of the reason I think people might have laughed a little bit more.
F2 actually late to the shoot day, if you remember as well.
This is what I'm saying. Part of the reason that people laugh a little bit more when the F2 losses is that they don't laugh at themselves. That is the difference between us and them.
Well, hang on, another story.
They brought a masseuse with them.
Okay, so remember that? Yeah. So hang on, there are some things. So there's one little story that I will say, because it's a really harmless one. There are many, many more like this. This is just a nice innocent one, but I think it paints a picture. A previous Wembley Cup shoot where we're at a set and there's catering being laid on for us, and it's chicken and chips and beans, and there's some salad and other options, right?
No, it was peri chicken. I know what you're going to say.
Okay,
It was nice.
So and basically there was time was called for lunch. And one of the F2 specifically made clear that was it. He's definitely got an hour. No one's going to interrupt him. He's got his own time to have his own lunch. And then time goes, they decide not to come to have peri chicken with us in the canteen, but to go and get a Nando's from a Deliveroo. That ends up coming 45 minutes late.
Essentially the exact same
So the
meal.
whole set was delayed. Dozens of people, so they could have peri chicken Nando's instead of coming to eat with all of us, to have their own in the corner and be 45 minutes late. Yeah. So those sort of behaviours, that's another reason why, when they then lose to all the people they're holding up. Yeah. Like, so where's the respect for people like Cal or Stephen Tryers or Will and E or True Geordie or me or you or any other people on set whose time they're wasting because they're not happy at it's complete disrespect.
No, honestly, when it's going in, you're looking around. It's not just Cal Freeze, it's not just our boys, it's the cameramen, it's everyone.
There's a reason why guys like Stephen Tryers drop diss tracks. It's not just because they think he's said some unquestionable things on YouTube, because he's disrespected him by things like this.
Everyone on that pitch didn't play for the F2 wanted the F2 to be embarrassed. That's the fact. I didn't want it to happen from in terms of helping us win the competition, which is what I was implied by me, but we all want to see the F2 brought down the peg, trust me, because they deserve it, quite frankly. And the reason they have that brand, they hold that brand so seriously, is they do monetize the idea that they are exceptional footballers. And they are, and this is where you've got to give credit where it's due, exceptional, for want of a better phrase, trick shot people. Okay? They can hit the shots really well from a dead ball with a rubbish keeper in goal. Like, they've played enough games now on YouTube, whether it's Wembley Cup or Soccer Aid or whatever, you can see the level. Jeremy is a good semi-professional footballer. He's probably no better than the league #United are in now. Yeah. That's the fact. Billy, it's very hard to say because he's very injured. Okay? He's very injured all the time. But again, they both had academy deals. They were both good footballers that didn't make it. Right? They didn't make it. And what they do is they monetize themselves and they sell books saying how to be a pro. They don't know how because they never did it. That's the fact. This isn't me trying to dig them out. This is just pure facts. So they have to create a facade, just like Dynamo and Darren Brown have a facade that they are actually supernatural when they're not just tricking. It's the same with the F2. I'm not saying they're doing trick shots. I'm not saying they're using camera tricks. One thing I've always said about the F2, give them credit, because I filmed with them a decade ago for Copa 90, not quite a decade, but 8 years ago. Known them for a long time, since way before the level they're at. If you give them a challenge, they will do it. Yeah, that's where I give credit to them. If you say, you kick a ball from there, you kick a ball from there, make them hit each other in the air, they'll go, all right, give us an hour, they'll get it done. They might make the edit look like they did it first or second try, it really took 100. You tell me and you to do it, we may never do it. It may take us weeks. That's the difference. They're very good at that. They're good on camera. Jeremy has got a lot of other talented things about him. Very good pianist. A lot of people don't know that.
Very good
music. Fair play. You don't become a good pianist by not putting a lot of practice in. Both of them have put a lot of practice in on certain skills throughout their life. And they've made the ability, and I do not begrudge them, the ability to monetize that. I think they are industry leaders.
They should be like the heroes of all of us as well. Like, look what they've done, this amazing brand. Look what they've done, look at this clothing brand. All these things they've done. That should be really aspirational. I think for an awfully long time they were held in that regard, and I think it's only in more recent times when people have come out and spoken about experiences behind the scenes. Like, we know of many brands that wouldn't want to work with them again because they've told us, brands that we've worked with that have actually said, "Oh no, we wouldn't do that again after what happened previously." And we don't know the ins and outs of those situations. It's just more stories that you hear. Yeah. And I just think it's such a shame.
They're divas. They are divas.
But the reality is, like you said, it is maybe a good point. Maybe it's that sheer mindset, single focus mindset of Jeremy's, that leads to him having these, in my opinion, unfortunate tendencies that means he's so successful. It's like Tiger Woods. Is Tiger Woods, if you take out the crazy guy that he is to be like the best golfer that's ever lived, would he, and then he's like maybe not in some periods of his life, not a nicer guy, if he became a nicer guy, would he have been as good at golf? Would Jeremy been as successful if he was a nice guy? I don't know. I think you probably can.
Yeah, you can.
I think you probably can
do both, but you shouldn't be expected necessarily to be. And I think there is, there's a nice story I'm going to tell about Billy in a minute, because I think it's important to show the different sides of everyone's got a nice side and whatnot.
The two, yeah.
And like I say, I knew Jeremy for a few years before I started to really understand what he's like. And I think he just never showed that in front of me. I don't know if he got sucked up in the machine a little bit and started to believe in his own hype, or if he's always been like this. I couldn't really tell you. But one thing I learned, particularly with my interactions with Billy, which were different to Jeremy's, because Billy and I have had a few clashes over the years, but then we usually always come back where we've DM'd each other and whatnot, and I've gone, look, I respect you, mate. I apologise if I offended you. And he says the same, and it's all like, good. We do clash. Billy and I have got a bit of a clash of personalities. I see him as a bit more of a ruthless businessman than me, and I think everyone should be a bit nicer. But I'm also aware that that's not necessarily always realistic, and you often say to me, Spen, doesn't work like that. So I get that. There was times where I was really annoyed with Billy. I'm not going to lie. There was times where I was like, I thought of him in the same way I thought Jeremy. And then what I learned, I had to educate myself a little bit. And what it was Billy's doing a lot of stuff for his family now. He's got a young family, and he's doing content with them. And I was watching one of his Instagram stories years ago, and I saw him just doing some cool stuff with his kids and how happy they were. And I realised, you know what? Billy's not a bad guy. Billy just has a different goals to me. He's trying to do whatever he can to ensure the health and the prosperity of his family. And I, as someone who doesn't have, 3 kids and all those things going on, I'm trying to build a hashtag United, or I'm trying to build a YouTube channel. I'm trying to do it in the nicest way possible without upsetting anyone, but also quite focused in my laser vision as well. I'm not some philanthropist going around, I'm trying to do something as well.
Yeah.
And we'd clash, and I'd be like, Billy, and then I stopped and looked at this story, and I was like, no, it's not. Billy just wants to do what's right by him. I want to do what's right by me. And sometimes
they just interpret. Exactly, right.
And I think to paint that picture more, I can tell a story, because I do think it's important to give balance, of something that Billy did once, which I thought, it's a small gesture, but it was such a nice thing. This scar I've got on my arm. So if you guys can see it on camera there. But when that all kicked off was during the 2nd or 3rd Wembley Cup. I can't remember which one. But I had this issue where the scar, the operation I'd had wasn't healing, and it was all minging and it wouldn't close. I actually played the Sidemen charity match with a hole in my arm. I had a plaster. I was told not to play. I had a plaster, but I wanted to play so much. I could feel the wind going through my arm. Couldn't get it to heal. Anyway, we were on these shoots, and we had an early morning. No, we had the night before. We were doing shoots every day, over a week. We just shot every day for Wembley Cup series. And this one night, I was telling Billy about this scar that wouldn't heal, and he told me about this oil. I can't remember the name of it, but it's oil that pregnant women often use to help get rid of stretch marks. It can help your skin heal. He was telling me about it, and I was like, I'm going to make a note of that. I'll try and get it. This was about 9 p.m. at night, right? Go home, we go to bed. I had a call time at 5:30 a.m. the next day. I arrive on set about 6:30. Billy's there. I'm literally half asleep. I'm like, all right, Bill. He goes, all right, mate. He brings me some of this thing. He'd gone to buy it for me.
Fair play.
Don't even know where he went. He must have gone to a 24-hour shop.
Yeah.
But even though I said, thanks for the advice, but I'll get one. He obviously stopped at some point.
I'd be very interested to know, but when the cameras are all off, the relationship between the two of them, because there is such a difference in personality, and ultimately, I think Billy gets dragged into it sometimes. But even since then, I haven't seen him in a long time now. I spoke to him in a long time, but even after the Wembley Cup incident we spoke about, Billy was the one who tried to be. Who later on would apologise, who'd send me a message and say, I'm sorry about how it went this way. And equally, he'd be the guy that might reply to an Instagram story of mine, or I haven't maybe for a year or so, but if I see a nice one of him and his children, being a father myself, I can take a lot of enjoyment from some of his posts sometimes, what he's doing with his son Roman and his daughter. So I drop a like on some of his posts still now. And right now, I would have no issue, I'm not saying we're going to be best of friends, but I would have no issue if I saw Billy at an event, both went to the Champions League final, I'd say, hi Bill, how you doing?
Agreed.
I definitely wouldn't do that with Jeremy.
No, so there's a project we might be doing soon that involves Billy. We knew that going in, and I've said that's fine.
No problem.
If it was Jeremy, it would be a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
That's just it. And that's not because I'm like this butthurt guy who's like, I don't want to see Jeremy. It won't be enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly.
I do this to enjoy my life.
Yeah.
So Billy has done some very nice things in the past, and we can't speak for this firsthand, but I've heard all kinds of rumours about what's going on behind the scenes with those two. I think they've sold Rascal. I believe they've wrapped up some of their other businesses as well. You know, at one point, the F2 had like 4 or 5, they had an agency. They had the F2 Academy, which is like an education thing. They had Rascal. They had another agency that wasn't about footballers, it was about young guys. To be honest, they got some stick, and this is public knowledge. They got some stick for that because there was some people that were saying they were signing up young footballers as YouTubers at 14,
contravening
15,
intermediary rules,
and then feeding them into their agency once they get old enough, which is it pissed off a lot of football agents. There's rumours that they've got rid of a lot of those businesses, and some of the reason that is rumoured to be behind that is because they are not on good terms. I don't even know if they're mates. I think they've, for a number of years, and I've seen this firsthand, them working together has been a necessary evil, shall we say. I
don't know if I'd be that surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
That surprised at all.
Go back to the Wembley Cup, the really cringe interview at the end with Jeremy, yeah?
Yeah.
Watch Billy's face.
Billy's so embarrassed.
And Billy's like, and he does correct something afterwards. And then 2 days later, they decide to do an apology to me on Instagram stories. So if you haven't seen it, it's because it's only live for 24 hours. Yeah. And Billy does it. Yeah. And Billy says the whole thing. Jeremy looks like he's so uncomfortable to have to be part of it. And Billy at one point goes, "Isn't that right, Jeremy?" And he's like, yeah. That's all Billy. It's all
I remember I think laughing when I saw the apology, and I could just imagine thinking, oh, that's Billy trying to sort of realise they're in for some flack. And let's be honest, they have taken a lot of flack off the back of the Wembley Cup. Yeah. A lot of flack. And we use that phrase, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It very much felt like that was what happened there. I
mean, if they, I don't think they ever will. If they did a podcast talking about the Wembley Cup, I'm sure they'd say they're never doing it again.
Of course,
they can't put themselves in that scenario. No. You know, they're playing in Soccer Aid these days, which is pretty cool.
Great, yeah, it's really
and that's very controlled. That's a TV show, you know, and they haven't got to worry about being seen as divas because there's much more famous people than them there, much more. Whereas in our world, they feel like they dominate it, so they behave in a certain way. But listen, they deserve a lot of credit for the things they've done in business. But one thing I do know, and this is not an F2 unique thing, this is across the industry, they've been very ruthless. They've been very ruthless in their business. We're not, again, going to go into much detail here, but for example, we know of a brand deal that we weren't allowed to do when Hashtag first started because they had a similar deal with the same company. And
I think they had an anti-compete clause, which meant that no other person in the same category as them could get a similar thing to they were getting from the brand.
But I think they specifically said Hashtag can't do it. And that's not the first time they've done
there's other clauses we know where they've had anti-hashtag clauses, aren't there?
There's talent they've been associated with. Again, I've got to be clever here. Not because I'm at risk, because other people are at risk, okay? And there has been word from them in the past that they would follow through on these sorts of things. Like, you know, there is some certain talent that Hashtag may or may not at some point have been interested in getting involved, that the audience might have been really interested in seeing Hashtag get involved, that
the talent might have been interested in getting involved.
All the pieces might have been there, and that talent had been previously associated with the F2, and the F2 made a rule which said they could not get involved in Hashtag United. Not this many clubs, and this is in an industry that they're not even in. I don't even know if that's legal, if I'm honest, what they tried to do there, but it stopped us doing certain things.
It's almost irrelevant, isn't it? It's like so many contractual clauses, they are there to dissuade people or intimidate people to not do certain things but ultimately I think you might be right, that may not have even been legally enforceable. It's anti-competitive.
It's anti-competitive in an industry they're not even in. I mean, all these things, the business thing annoyed me a lot of the time, whether it's the deal we tried to do or just various things they do. But I am a certain sensibility. I know a lot of people in business are much more ruthless than me, and that's as much my problem as theirs. I get that. If I don't want to come across people like that, I shouldn't be in this game. So I do understand that. I don't really have any issue with them for it. It means I don't want to work with them sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to that point, because going back to the very beginning, is that I can hold my hand up and say, yes, I wouldn't like to work with Jeremy again, but equally, I don't wish any ill on him at all. Exactly. And I do wish favourably goodwill on Billy specifically, because I think he's a really nice guy and he's got a lovely family. I think it's very frustrating. It's very regrettable. Ultimately, this I feel like had to be a bit of an exorcism for us, to be honest, because it's getting things off our chest, and I think it really gives people context to why what happened. Yeah. I think at the time, I really commended you for not saying not going into this sort of thing at the time, because it would have been done in the right way. It would have been the wrong way, because it was still a bit raw there. We were hurt, we were offended, we did feel disrespected, we did feel let down a little bit, and I think it probably wouldn't have been the right way to talk about it. Whereas now, in the time to reflect, we're able to maybe put things into a little bit more context, but equally, it's all water that's not just under the bridge, it's very, very distant away from the bridge. You can't even see the water anymore. So things move on. Wish them both well. As I said, definitely no one's out to get anybody here. But at the same point, I think it is important that people understand something as significant as the Wembley Cup to you and me. That one of the reasons why it won't be coming back, or certainly is no plans to come back, is because of things that we've been discussing in this video. Yeah. And the reason for the Wembley Cup not maybe performing in some metrics as well as it did in the final year is very much got a lot to do with some of those things that happened behind the scenes that made it a very different atmosphere, which ultimately changed how everybody perceives it. And that's only going to leak outwards into the audience as well. Yeah, and I think just to put into context how serious it was at the time, because this is one of the reasons I'm making this video now as well, is as much as I maybe should say this for you. We were obviously in talks with lawyers about many different things. We have to do lots of contracts and things. We were given advice that some of the things that had been said about you would have enabled you to sue for significant damages in a very cut and open and shut case. And you made the decision not to do that. So if you really were out to get somebody, you could have easily done that, gone through, got lots of money for it, and had some compensation for what was defamatory comments made about you that were unfounded. That's the important thing. Yeah. Unfounded defamatory comments. What's worse about it is unfounded defamatory comments, like clearly can be proved that they're lies, but also it was on my channel and he was being paid to be on that channel. Yeah. So I don't know. And he also, not that this is a big deal, but he also tried to advertise another brand. I don't know if that makes it any more legally enforceable, but it certainly makes it much more disrespectful. Yeah. But ultimately, someone told us, you should sue these guys. You will get this money or this person. I mean, look, I'm not afraid to say that we were told, I'm not sure whether I would agree with it or not, but we were told we're looking at 6 figures. Oh yeah. We're looking at 6 figures I might have received. Well, we were told I would receive. Yeah. We were told it was done. Like someone can't do that. It's all out there. It's video evidence. Like I know people at home are probably like laughing, like, oh, who does he think he is? Like Wembley Cup gets millions of views. If someone's job is in a industry that is about reputation and very much like I work very hard to make sure I have a good reputation because I try and do things the right way. For someone to make potentially all your fans or all followers or anyone that knows about you question your reputation it's human graffiti is what that is. It's literally just going over someone's persona. And you could argue we're doing it a bit now. The difference is we're talking the truth. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the biggest difference. The other thing I want to say as well, you mentioned there Billy, have a nice family and all that stuff. Another thing I have a lot of respect for Billy for is the way he talks about mental health. Okay? Yes. So we alluded earlier that we don't know what goes on in Jeremy's head, but we do know a bit more about Billy because he has openly shared his own issues, and I applaud him for that. Yeah, even massively. When him and I have been like not on best terms, I have reached out to him a few times and said, like, I just want to say I've got a lot of respect for what you're talking about here. I'm not going to pursue it, but I'd happily sit down with Bill and have a chat about any of this. And like, it's no problem. Yeah. I wouldn't let Jeremy in my drive, let alone my house. There's a few reasons why. One is that he's not a very nice person to be in the company of, based on previous experience. He may well have changed since then, who knows, right? But second of all, it would not be productive because of what's happened, but the clash and my understanding of his attitude towards things, let alone us, is that sense and logic would be irrelevant. It would just be about ego and we're a useless conversation. One little thing, going back to that Wembley Cup group stage, right? So one of the reasons I refused to be in the heads of the families, this is what's happening. It was I can act it. I pretended about the whole Manny thing in the first Wembley Cup to make drama. It's fine. The reason I was personally offended because you know what I'm like? If there's an issue, I'm like, everyone out in the open, let's talk about it, let's get it fixed as soon as possible. Who's done what? Let's fix it. That's my way I am. I'm like, what's the point in like him saying, she's saying this, let's just address it. So I got everyone together off camera. And I said, right, everyone's here, all the teams are here. I said, Jeremy, it's going to help us a lot if you, in this forum, when everyone's here to hear it, explain exactly what your issue is. And I can do my best to prove to you that it's not real. And he just looked at me and I said, okay, he's not going to talk much. Right, Jeremy, is it fair to say you believe or are implying that we are in some way cheating, that there's some sort of issue? Can you please expand on this so we can all talk about it? And Jeremy just looked at me and went, you don't always get what you want, Spence. That's all he said. So I was like, okay, I get it.
I'm not trying to, this is clearly not what I want, I think is what I said. And I said, I'm just trying to fix this, Jeremy, the best way I know how. Please, let's talk about this. And he went, you don't always get what you want. And that was it. And so I walked off, and then the issue was fixed. You did a lot of that negotiating and diplomacy. Lawrence McKenna was pretty key in it as well. Yeah. And everyone essentially swallowed a humble pill and pretended the F2 were legends, when really we're all talking about it on WhatsApp, ironically, or in person, like how ridiculous they are.
Yeah. There you go.
That's it, really.
There you go.
It is water under the bridge. It is over. You know, like I say, it's probably people watching these videos now because it's new information for them, so it becomes relevant for them. This is so far past relevant for us. Yeah. Like, we don't talk about this ever when we meet. It's never something that comes up.
No. Well, it's interesting when you saw, like, obviously at the time there was a lot of the stuff came out from Jack Mate, some of his content that came out, and Stephen Tries and things like that. It was interesting. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but when Stephen Tries went on the Happy Hour podcast recently after our video, where it was brought up again, whether it would have been brought up again anyway, but it just, like I said, when new information comes about, it does sort of do it. And that's maybe, you know, that we have had this new information.
We've had some new information. This email I've alluded to, like I say, it doesn't change anything we've said today, but for the Wembley Cup, it's fascinating.
Fascinating.
I'm not trying to, it's probably people are thinking now, Spencer's just trying to get new views. I don't care if we make no more videos about the Wembley Cup. I've got loads of other stuff I want to do. Yeah. Me and you have got other video ideas. We're parking right now because we're doing this. Yeah. I'm happy for this to be the last one.
Yeah, sure.
But if there is demand for it, I am trying to make interesting long-form discussion videos now. People want to see it. I'll talk about it.
Because this new information is very relevant and very topical to an incident that happened during the Wembley Cup, but it also spawns off into a wider discussion about football. Yeah. That's why I think it could be its own video, because otherwise this one's going to be 4 hours long.
Yeah. There is a few other examples of Jeremy's behaviour that I think is important. So one thing is a classic example of like a Jeremyism, if you like, that he'll do and has done in my presence multiple times, and I've heard many other cases of it. It's like if someone gives him ag on a football pitch, and trust me, I know all about this. I'm not talking about the same level, but anytime I play Sunday League every week. When I play Sunday League, someone says something, whether it was when during me and Alex being broken up, and it's some guy going, your missus dumped you, like random stuff that's not necessarily even factually true, but also they know stuff about you, but you don't know stuff about them. So it is very annoying. Yeah, it's very annoying. But obviously that happens to Jeremy. If he doesn't nutmeg every single person when he gets the ball, someone's going to mug him off, right? But unlike me and other people, Jeremy has a certain response, which is usually about how much money is in his bank, which is usually, I'm a millionaire, mate. How do you feel? And these are direct quotes. Like, guy, you might have beaten 1-0, but I'm a millionaire. That's what he said to someone after the XO game. You might have won, but I'm a millionaire.
I think the quote, the quote I heard was, guys, laugh at me all you want. I'm a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And I think he introduced himself to one of the hashtag players. And I heard this from the said hashtag player, who I won't name because it's not fair to. But someone I've known for a very long time, and there's no way to make it up, is, hi, you know who I am.
Sometimes you wouldn't even shake people's hands at all.
You know what I do get, and some people might say, oh, it's just banter, it's just funny. Yes, it is. But in some people's minds, that could be a funny thing to say, right? But when you put it with all the rest of the stuff that definitely isn't funny, then you know where it really came from.
What sort of first impression are you giving off? It's just like, that's what it
is. Why?
He has got to a point in his life, rightly or wrongly, definitely wrongly, where he no longer cares about first impressions with people that aren't famous or rich, whereas we were brought up to that you should care about everyone you meet, not just because it's polite, but also
just gets in your interest.
Also, you never know where that person's going to be one day. You know, like, it's just clever. You know, Stephen's made his video about what happened in the bar.
There's a lot of unsavoury things that happened in that Wembley Cup bar afterwards. There are a lot of other things that just, I think somebody who had felt like he was had everyone against him for the whole tournament. They just won a tournament. Instead of having it with grace, going out and trying to rub it in as many people's faces, not just in a funny way, but in many occasions, really vindictive, nasty, like premeditated, where things would happen over one side of the bar. He'd intentionally go to another area, specifically to wind somebody up, like not in a jovial way, because there's no joviality left between Jeremy and anyone else in the whole cast of Wembley Cup at this point, and just showed a quite like nasty streak. I would like to think that if I give some faith to humanity, that there are moments since where Jeremy's been alone and he said, oh no, like we've all had moments, right? When you've grown up, I say some silly things when I was at university playing in the first team football team, like silly, arrogant things. You're like 19 years old, you say silly things, nothing nasty, but just things like, oh, why is that so cringe? Like, what an embarrassing thing to say. I really hope that he's had moments where he's looked back on some of the things he said. And bearing in mind, we've had a lot of interaction with him, but like in the realms of our entire career, it's very minimal still. Imagine how many other stories there must be out there. I really hope that at some point, as he's getting older now, he sits back and goes, oh God, why did I say that? I was so embarrassing. Yeah,
I mean, the difference is he's not a student. He's 30 years old.
Well, yeah.
But it's true. Like, if I be critical of myself again, right? Like I say, I've been in those scenarios when you're playing football and someone is saying something to you. And if they're mugging you off for your job, what you do, whatever, they know something about you, etc. Like, the human mind does work a certain way. Which will say, hang on, well, if they're taking the mick out of me because I have this, what does this get me that they don't get? Yeah. So it is natural to sort of respond. Yeah. Like, I have had similar instances when I've played football and someone said something to me like I say, my natural response if someone said something to me is to reply with a rebuttal because that's how I grew up. So someone said something to me like, why don't you go and do another FIFA pack opening or something like that? Yeah. Right? My response is usually like, and they'll say something like, oh, shut up, Spence, why are you doing another FIFA pack opening? And I go, oh, you know my name, because I don't know yours. I'll be a response to it. I don't go around going, everyone knows my name. It's just, how can I do a response that hurts them? Because they've tried to hurt me.
But equally, you know that when you come out of that situation, you know that like you shouldn't say that.
No, I go home and I'm like, why didn't I just laugh and go, all right, mate, cheers, thanks for the game.
Exactly.
I do try to do that now.
Exactly.
It's still not perfect. No. If someone does something to me, or sometimes it'd be more physical, they try and kick me, not because I'm good, because they thought it'd be funny if they injured me or funny if they got a reaction out of me.
And do you know what? Here's what I honestly would say. And I think I speak for you in this. If, it's a massive if Jeremy, because bearing in mind what he's done, he's been really annoying, he's upset people, disrespected people, he's not killed anyone, right? There's nothing really that if he did sit there, and he'd never do this for many reasons, but one of them would be because like there's just no need to, he wouldn't get anything from it. He's not, I don't think having many things cost in his life from some of his previous actions. Sit there and goes, you know what, guys, I was such an idiot. I said this, I shouldn't have, and you know what, I'm really sorry. If he did that, I'd probably be like, fair play, because that's all life is. Redemption. Like, there's loads of things I'd love to be forgiven for. I don't think there's anything quite to this extent, but at the same point, if he really genuinely was sorry, like, okay, like I might still not want to be your best mate, because like, you know, I've got friends already who have never done things in the past, but ultimately I would really be like, just fair play, massive respect. And I don't think he'll get anything out of it, which is ultimately why he probably won't do it. But I do really hope that some part of him does think, you know, one day I'll maybe say sorry to some people. Yeah,
this isn't a reconciliation video. We don't need that.
No,
but I'm always open to stuff like that because I don't like the idea that there's someone out there that I know he doesn't like me. Like, I know he doesn't like me. I don't think I deserve it, but I know he doesn't like me, and it's not nice to have that out there. And you know. Again, if I'm racking my brain to things that I've done that have offended him, there is one other thing I've got to say, which is on the draft day, when we did the draft day, I was very much like pretty pissed off with them at this point. And I'm not someone that can hide that very well.
No, you're definitely
like, not. I'm not someone that's going to be like, hello, mate, how you doing?
You're not a diplomat.
If I think this guy's a dick, I'm going to be like, all right, that's the best you're going to get out of me. That's just the way I am.
Yeah.
And I do think he's a dick. So that is how I felt on that day. And the draft... we were revealing what legends were available.
Yep.
And to be fair, this is me on the offensive.
Yeah, I remember this.
And basically, he gave me the ammunition. We were talking about who to pick. So it was like Cafu, Trezeguet, Essien, Perez. We had Perez, right? We got last pick because we won the group stage. Again, it would have been better for us. Yeah. No, actually not better because we got Perez. Perez is sick. I was amazed by everyone's draft picks. I thought they had a mare.
Yeah,
I thought I would have picked
we
Perez
couldn't believe
first.
it, could we? Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the point. We've just revealed who the legends are. We're all talking about them. Lynch comes out and he says something like, do you see that rainbow flick Cafu did on Instagram the other day? It got 2 million views. And I was just like, you've just given me an easy home run here. So in front of everyone, I went, oh yeah, if he's got views, you're going to love that because that really means how good you are at football, doesn't it? Or something like that. And it got a bit of a laugh. And I was just sort of like basically mugging him off saying all they care about is views, which is true. Because bear in mind, this is the same guy that has said stuff about Social Blade or whatever to me in the past. And then he did say something back straight after something. I think he actually said something about Social Blade then as well. Something like, you could use the views or something like that. And I was like, I'm really fine. Thank you, but I'm fine. So yeah, I said that. That is one thing I did do, which I don't regret it, but I'm just acknowledging that I played a part in the relationship breaking down. If I hadn't said that, they probably wouldn't not like me as much as they don't now, or Jeremy doesn't. I think really one of the reasons I was so content to not make my own video earlier is because you have to remember the day it happened, the days after it happened, I'm like, are people going to believe this? Like, I don't know. Do people think this? And what I will say is, fair play to all the other YouTubers that called Jeremy out, because it's a hard thing to do. You don't understand unless you're a YouTuber. To go after someone who's got that many subscribers, you worry about what they can do to you. Like, it's all, they would never had any ability to really do this, but if they had made a video about Stephen Tries or about someone like Cam Kirkham, who's a much smaller YouTuber at the time, and said, go and unfollow this guy, they could ruin their career. Now, to my knowledge, they've never done anything like that, and I'm not saying they would have. And I think all those people making those videos kind of showed what I would have said anyway, so that's why I was happy not saying anything at the time. And I appreciate those boys for doing that, because I think it took a lot of guts. I probably could have said something sooner about the F2. I've known everything I've said in this video for years, and it's only now that I've been prepared to say it. So that's my side of it, really. Yes, there's two sides to every story.
Of course, always.
I'm just drawing a line under it now. But in other news, we're going to make more videos like this. We're enjoying these. Thank you for all the positive remarks on the Wembley Cup video. I'm glad you guys have been enjoying it. We have too. I'm still setting a few things up to do this to the best of its ability. We're talking about maybe doing some of them live. Podcast-wise, people have been saying, Spence, you should start a podcast. I appreciate that. I appreciate even more the people that remember I had a podcast before. I was actually number one in the UK.
Yeah, I know, man.
I've got to say fair play to Geordie and all those guys. The amount of podcasts they've done, unbelievable. And I'm a big fan of his, I am a good friend of his as well. So massively rate them, and I would be looking for inspiration from those guys, even though I had one before. Theirs is re-established the mold for YouTube podcasts. I think what's more likely is a hashtag podcast about football from the eyes of people that are running an actual club, looking at the whole of the football world, including our own. And then maybe same with me and you, Seb. But also, these aren't podcasts. We're not on podcast platforms right now, but these are like video podcasts, whatever you want to call them. Longer form chats. If you like them, let us know. Let us know what else you'd like to see in the comments below. What do you want us to talk about in the future? Make sure you subscribe to Seb on Golf. Seb's doing great things on his golf channel. Seb won't say this, but I will say it for him. It's the best golf channel on YouTube. Okay? He doesn't say that because he's mates with all the other golf YouTubers. I don't know any of them really. I know some. They're good lads, to be fair. It's a good scene.
There's some really good lads on the scene.
He's a good scene. You don't even necessarily have to like golf that much to get involved, to be fair. Seb does cool stuff, like the videos he's got with the Sidemen coming up, and loads of other cool bits. Did a good one with Saunders the other day. Yeah,
Saunders and Tubes. Had some fun doing a little bit of gaming and also real golf on the out on the course.
Links in the description for Seb. Make sure you subscribe. Drop a like on this video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to Spencer FC for more. Until next time, don't go changing.